I think first we'll start with Marina, who is calling in from Texas. Marina, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hi. I just wanted to kind of discuss the the issue of people having a lot of things happen in their favor and then associating that with God working in their life and working for the good of all who love him. So the reason I'm asking this is because I'm an agnostic atheist. My wife is a Christian. I won't give away her identity or denomination, but she really believes that since a lot of good things are happening in our lives right now, even though I'm transgender, and this has been very hard for her, especially with her own convictions. She thinks that God is being very caring and loving to her and working for her good. And even I see, wow, everything's just really working well for both of us, for my transgender care and for her provision and her job. And people are being really good to her and me. And, I could understand why people might be led to think that maybe God is showing us some of that extra goodness and working in and out of our lives, And
Right.
I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. What would a skeptic think, or what does it mean to be a skeptic in this situation?
Well, it's a great question. The term for this kind of motivated reasoning is what it's called in psychology, right? In philosophy, it would be post hoc rationalization, right? So it's this idea that you have a predetermined conclusion, right? And you're motivated to find evidence for the reasoning for that, right? It's the same reason why folks like young Earth creationists can be sometimes so hell bent on the idea that the Earth is 6,000 years old, is because that's what they heard when they were 5 or 10, and when they're adults, they want to figure out how they can keep that belief going, right? The problem with this idea that God shows us special favor in that you look at the good things in your life as evidence for that is that kind of reasoning has to work both ways, right? So if God shows you particular favor, I guess the children that just died in Ukraine from the recent missile strikes were really hated by God, or God just doesn't care, right? So that sounds really
Yeah,
awful
that
and
would
that
be
sounds really
problematic.
bad. But when you say it out loud, it's like, oh, well, wait, well, God has a plan, maybe, right? Maybe there's some sort of extra thing. And I guess the plan involves, children dying through military, assaults. But like it works for us because we can live in our own little bubbles of the world and we see things going our way and we're able to kind of rationalize it. But on a global level, that kind of reasoning just doesn't work, right? And if it just gets more complicated. There's Christians that have these kinds of responses to the problem of evil and stuff. Obviously, I don't find that very convincing. But like you have to think that it cuts both ways, right? If you're willing to see the good things in your life, what does that mean for the not good things? Or what other actors are involved? Is it Satan? Is it demons? Is it angels? I mean, it could be anything, right? Could be the man on the moon that has some sort of
Right.
influence, right? But anyway, that's my initial
Yeah.
thoughts. Zachary, what do you think?
Yeah, that was basically that's about what I was going to say. We have evolved in such a way that we recognize correlation. When we eat a berry and it hurts us, it's like, oh, probably shouldn't eat that berry. It's wired into us, but that can be abused. But that's really only half the picture, because if something bad happens, like Dan said, it's like that reason should go both ways, but it doesn't. And that's just my bias, is like, oh, well, faith can cloud your reasoning in that way. Because my greatest criticism of that line of reasoning is you start with the conclusion of God and you give premises that lead to that conclusion, but you can never not have that conclusion because that's where you start with.
Right.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Marina?
Is this kind of like confirmation bias? Is this what we're talking about too?
Yeah, absolutely. Confirmation bias. Well, so like confirmation bias, I'm trying to think of the specific definition, but the term I was thinking was post hoc rationalization, which is that specifically means like you have a predetermined conclusion for something like that. A confirmation bias is related, but I think that's more like what's a good example? Like you take medicine when you are feeling sick and you really like this medicine and you start to feel good for it, and so like it, but actually it might be a placebo, but you don't know that. I don't know. I think there is a difference there, but point is, it is related concepts, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, because I had never heard like a different term used for this kind of thing. But you say motivated
reasoning. Motivated reasoning is sometimes used in psychology, right? To describe a similar thing, like post hoc rationalization is the philosophy term when you're talking about like arguments. Motivated reasoning can is similar, but can also, I think, refer to psychological uh states that can influence you as well. Again, I'm talking out my ass. I'm not an expert
Mhm.
on any of this, but I'm just an observer of human beings, right? And when you talk to people, you pick up on some of this terminology.
Yeah. See, this is good because this is the kind of thing that convinced me to become a Christian for about
Mm.
20 years of my life, and I basically postponed my own transitional needs for that span of time.
Mm.
Thinking that God just didn't want me to do that, and relying on His
Right.
grace and His power to not transition, and then proclaim that boldly to other people. And once I started deconstructing, it just all fell apart. And then I'm like, wow, I've spent all this time following and like wasting my life on something that was most likely not even true to begin with. Let
Yeah.
alone do we have
Yeah.
any concrete evidence. And it's like, I just kind of feel this urgency to get the ball rolling and not waste my life any longer.
Man, I really appreciate you sharing that, Marina, because I think I've had definitely a similar experience. Obviously, I'm not trans, so I didn't but the things that held me back, for example, like pursuing relationships with people that I otherwise would have because they didn't have the same religious beliefs that I did, or spending my summers working at summer camps preaching the gospel to children because I thought that was a good thing to do instead of enjoying my early 20s in the summer. I like
Yeah.
like a lot of college kids do, right? I didn't have a lot of those experiences. I didn't drink alcohol at all, like when I was in college, like not that I necessarily needed to, but like I do feel that sense of like missing out a bit, right? And wanting to like, gain something that you've perceived as a loss. I guess what I would encourage though, as I'm hearing you, is just something that I've come to a conclusion for myself, is that you wouldn't be the person that you are today without your life experiences, right? And for better or
Yeah.
worse, they do help inform you and help you not only in yourself in your own life, but you can, as you're talking to me right now, make a difference in other people's lives. Like I'm glad Zachary's a part of the SSA. I'm super happy for him that he gets to have that experience that I didn't get to have, and I hope for generations even younger than that. I think like what we can do in our station in life as people who wish that we missed out is at least give those experiences to other people, right? Like if there's one thing we can do, I guess that's the thing we can do. But anyway, that's just me expressing my thoughts on that. Zachary, do you have any thoughts?
I think that pretty much sums me up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else did you have for us, Marina? Anything else on that, or did we kind of give you everything you wanted?
I would love to talk with you guys forever, but I think you guys have been great, and I would really have to fish for anything else. I'm going to have to chew on all that for a while. And thank you guys so much. Really.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for calling
calling,
in.
and appreciate your honesty with that. And it's hard. It's so hard when you have a partner that thinks a certain way about things, and like everybody, people in your life, right? They're gonna think differently about stuff, and that's fine. But like some stuff's bigger than others. You know what I mean? I don't know how big of a deal this is for Marina. They didn't really go into it, but it was a big enough deal for them. They thought that they should call in and talk to us about it, right? So I don't know. That's tough when your partner can think differently from you. I've definitely had to deal with that. How about you, Zach? You ever had to deal with that?
Just a little bit from grandparents. I mean, I did tell them I was an atheist. That did not go over well.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
it wasn't the worst thing ever, but it for a short time afterwards, I could definitely see the look of disappointment in my grandpa's eyes. It's like, and that's the other thing is the Christian perspective is, hey, you're going to hell because you don't believe. And if you look at the view of atheists as morally capable people, on the conservative side, it's not great. So I did deal with that, but it's sort of come to pass, and we sort of live with it now.
Yeah, coming out to family is really hard, especially when they don't understand or support
Mm-hmm.
what you can do. And Marina was even talking about this, right? Marina was saying their Christian identity uh, led them to speak out. It sounded like against being trans, is what it sounded like. I might be misinterpreting that, but at least they couldn't recognize that identity for themselves
Mm-hmm.
because of that ideology that was given to them probably prior, right? That they felt like they had to justify. And like every single trans person I know, okay, like every single one is so happy that they made the transition, right? Like yes, there are people who are quote unquote detransers, right? But if you notice, even within that sub community, there are people who that like a lot of them will still say, yes, this decision wasn't right for me, but it should be right for other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should have the right to have that experience for themselves. And unfortunately, fundamentalist Christianity just doesn't allow for that kind of thinking. So